good morning. Um, Actually, as the moderator already mentioned, I'm subbing in. My colleague Jana was supposed to give this talk. Instead, you have to make do with me. Unfortunately, she lost her voice catching the flu. So anything I tell you today is basically her achievement. I'm going to give the talk exactly as she would have. If you have any questions about the use case and the case study I'm going to show you, she's sitting back there. I'm not able to talk, but maybe you can go to her after the talk and have her sign it out for you if you have any additional questions. So my name is Andreas. I'm founder of Vuframe. I spent 10 years in the games industry before entering the augmented virtual reality space almost 9 years ago. And 5 years ago, I founded a company called Vuframe. And we're building a platform which makes it easy for companies to transform their existing data sets from CAD or 3D into something that's immediately usable in augmented and virtual reality with any file size constraints, with any security risks whatsoever, and with huge device compatibility. And doing this over the past couple of years, we grew to 25 people. We have 100 enterprise customers in the German-speaking area of Europe. And we have an online platform which right about now 900 subscribers use on a monthly basis. As I said, we're a team of 25. I'm the head nerd. Jana is the head numbers girl, if you will. And if we look at things together, that gets like one holistic perspective of a sensible human being. These are some of our customers. Like I said, we're working with 100 enterprise customers here in the German-speaking area of Bavaria. And for them, we had to challenge a lot of different obstacles over the past couple of years. And the main obstacle is that everybody wants to use augmented and virtual reality. A study by Capgemini shows that a lot of companies that are currently implementing augmented reality, and when I say a lot, I mean actually 82%, so that's really a lot, think that augmented and virtual reality will have a lasting effect on how they do their business. And these companies, they are already investing in a lot of very popular use cases that you can also see here at the conference that are talked about in the conference or that are exhibited in the expo hall over there. So what's interesting about these use cases is that Capgemini actually found out that in augmented reality, 55% of the projects are not anymore about experimenting. They are about implementing. They are about taking what you found out in a proof of concept and actually making it, transitioning it into operations. For virtual reality, that number is a little bit lower. That's only 26%. But also, it's a quarter. So a lot of these projects over the past couple of years, which were about experimenting with these new technologies, have actually shifted and are now about integrating the technology into business operations, into business processes, and getting a return on investment out of them by cutting cost, increasing efficiency, things like that. So some of the benefits of the cases that Jana is working on for us, she's in strategy and in business development, basically, when she's not helping me managing the company. She's focusing on cases that can really change business processes, that really make business processes more efficient. And some of these, for example, the use case we brought with us today is about making design work more efficient. So if I talk about design work, I mean architects, designers, interior designers, trade show booth designers, as you will find out in a minute. And giving them the possibility to show the drafts of their work and the final version of their work that the customer will commission or that the customer has commissioned in a much more efficient way. And giving them a tool for that works on a daily basis. And this is exactly what also Volkswagen IT has recognized, that over the next couple of years, it will not only have a higher impact, these augmented and virtual reality solutions that enter company operations, But they will also be a standard for many industries, not just the automotive industry. But if the automotive industry, who is really, really, really process-driven, believes in this technology and is ready to invest in this technology, it means that there's a lot of potential for other less process-driven industries as well. So the topic of the talk is how to leverage data that you already own. So how can you implement an application in augmented or virtual reality that gives additional value to your business and to your processes with data that you already have in your company? Because at the end of the day, it's always a problem of content. You have an augmented reality glass, you have a virtual reality headset, but what can you show in this headset? What's the content that will add value to your business? And the problem always is that the kind of content you need, CAD files, CGI, real-time 3D, or point cloud, so 3D scanning, they are neither cheap nor easy to come by. You need new suppliers, you need a new supply process, because these files are not something that you're used to. Before, you used to send images of your product off to some low-wage country for them to remove the background, so you have actually an image with a transparent background. That's the sort of thing you dealt with before. Now you're asked to shift to a 3D file generation process. You want your products in 3D, you want your manuals, your training handbooks, you want them in 3D. So it's a completely new sort of world for you. And that's neither cheap nor easy to transition to that world. But the good news is that most companies, they are already using software which provides files and data that is compatible to augmented and virtual reality devices. Most companies, for example, any manufacturing company, will have in their business some sort of CAD or 3D planning software that the engineers use. Most companies that are selling products will have some sort of product image process in place. So any new product gets photographed either via a supplier or via an in-house department for the online shop, for Amazon.com, for whatever, for all your sales channels. So there's a process there as well, and if you think about it, you could very easily, if the hardware is affordable, add to that process a 3D product capturing, if the 3D scanner is not too expensive. So most of the time you already have some databases in your company which you can build on top on. The problem, again, however, is that now we identified something that might be cheaper and easier to come by when it comes to data. But this data then needs to be optimized for all of these devices. Like if somebody in the audience maybe has tried to run a big CAD file on a HoloLens or a HoloLens 2, you will very quickly reach the limit of what this device is capable of. So then you turn to, okay, let's take this file and let's optimize it manually. Again, we have the low-wage countries where you might have a supplier that can do file optimization or 3D modeling for you. But at the end of the day, it's neither cheap nor easy. And by cheap, I don't only mean the monetary cost, I also mean the process cost. Think about the time and money you spend finding that supplier, managing that supplier, and quality controlling the result of their work. So there's some challenges in having identified the files that your business might already have access to, like CAD files or 3D scans or whatever. And then you need to sort of solve the problem. How can I make these files usable? And we identified three main challenges. I'm going to go a little bit more into detail on them. So we have data conversion, data storage, and content delivery. What do I mean by data conversion? So let's imagine you're a manufacturing business and you want to create an application for augmented and virtual reality, for example, to make your training more efficiently. Having a virtual training application, you can just send around as a download across the globe, and you can establish training centers across the globe that do trainings for your product without physically having your product present, which sounds nice. It saves the money of sending products around the world, and it saves the money of sending people around the world to training centers. So using your CAD files, you can create an application like that very easily. But the problem is that CAD is not standardized. CAD is not, there's not even a convention for CAD. If I point at any three of you from different companies, your companies will use the same CAD software in completely different ways, with completely different conventions. So CAD is not like an image. Today an image is JPEG or PNG most likely when you get it via email. But CAD is a huge mess for everybody. And that's not even in a negative way. It's just like CAD is used. It's an immensely complicated system and premise, and companies struggle implementing standards and conventions. So that leads to, if you have any three companies in this room, that even if they have three different departments doing design with CAD, they will use different conventions, they will have different problems in their files, they will have redundant data, they will have garbage data, they will have duplicated data, and at the end of the day, all of that is very unoptimized. We did a big project for Siemens, and we found that even the designers made copy-paste mistakes, where they had a big campus building, and they copy-pasted the windows in the slots of where the doors should have been, because it was so big and it was so hard to maintain this big CAD file. So this is the problem. CAD is not standardized, and CAD and 3D data is not easy to store. That's the second problem. If I send you an image, you double-click it, you can open it. If I send you a 3D today, and it's not in, for example, an OBJ format, you will struggle to open it. You might need a paid 3D viewer, but then the paid 3D viewer doesn't display textures, so you don't see the product that's in the CAD or the 3D file. So 3D is not easy to store and to exchange. Then there's a couple of questions. How do I store it? Do I store it as a binary blob, which I can't search and I possibly can't preview? Or do I store it as a text-based file, which I might be able to search and index in a database, but which then is ridiculously big? Like we're talking to oil and gas companies and to automotive companies where a single product has a CAD databases that's 60 to 150 gigabytes of data. Try to store that as a text file and search it with a regular Windows text editor. That won't happen. So this is one of the challenges that you need to think about. Then the other thing is that these files are sensitive. Like it's CAD, it's the blueprint for your product. If that goes into the wrong hands, how can I ensure that my IP is protected? So do I store it in an encrypted fashion, or do I store it in a segregated fashion? That means, do I not store it at all, but have it in a safe somewhere, and no one is allowed to access it in its entirety? And at the end of the day, do I store the CAD, or do I store a 3D export of the CAD which cannot be edited anymore? This is also a question. So what do I do? How do I maintain these different states of my product data? So this also contributes to the notion that 3D and CAD is not easy to handle. It's not easy to handle for engineering departments, and it's especially not easy to handle for marketing departments who haven't been dealing with 3D and CAD for the past 25 years. Because for them it's completely new. So the last challenge you have is, let's say you figured it out. You have some CAD files, you have some product data that you want to put into an application which runs of any of these devices. And when I mean any of these devices, an augmented reality app can just be an iPad app which you give to your engineers out in the field setting up and assembling machines. That's also an augmented reality application. It doesn't need to run on a headset. But how does the content get into the app? Do you hard code it by a programmer? Do you hire a programmer? Or do you have a service level agreement with an external agency that provides a programmer for adding content to your application? Or do you use a content management system? What content management systems are there for 3D files? We know that there's a lot of content management systems for websites, WordPress or whatever, but what content management systems are there for 3D files, for CAD files? We don't know. We can ask PTC, maybe they have a system for that, but right now we don't know. Especially not something that's also very user-friendly, where you can just click together an application for example, for your engineering workforce. So all of these challenges are there. And usually when a customer comes to us, we try to take all of these challenges into account, identifying what data they have available and how we can make that data usable. And we worked with a company here from Munich that you actually all know if you're exhibiting at the Expo, because they built your booth. They are the main service provider for this area here, for the Messe München trade fair ground. And they are building most of the booth here when events are happening. And they do individual designs, and they do exhibition planning in general. So you always have individual booths, and then you have the 3, 4, 5 square meter booths that are just set up based on a template system. That's their business model. So they have designers, and they have CAD engineers who just build a layout based on a template system they have in their CAD. And for them, a big challenge is showing a CAD, which is essentially a 2D plan, to a customer. Because going from a 2D plan to imagining it how it looks in 3D is hard for most people. I spent 10 years in the games industry, and even for me, sometimes it's really, really hard. If I look at a blueprint, I don't understand it immediately. So that's a problem in their daily business. And for them, it's actually not only a problem that they need to show it, but they also need to, based on the blueprint, they need to talk to the customer about revisions. They need to talk about changes. They need to talk about reducing the budget in order to make this design work for them. And all of this you need to do based on a 2D CAD. So they came to us and wanted to have a more innovative way to do their design presentations to the customer. And their original idea, actually, and they already had a supplier in place for that, was to do a virtual reality application. So go to the customer, bringing a virtual reality headset and presenting their designs using virtual reality. When we came in, because the original supplier wasn't in business anymore, is a nice way to put it, that's the first thing we talked them out of. Never ever go to your customer with a virtual reality headset as your only weapon. Because what we noticed, or what we learned over the past 5 years, is actually that if I have a group like you I'm doing a presentation to, there will be people with glasses, with bad eyesight. There will be people who are currently sick. There will be people who are too old and for cultural problems don't want to put something on their head in front of other people. We did a project once in the United Arab Emirates, and believe me, that was a big issue. So going to the customer, trying to present your work and bringing a virtual reality headset as your only weapon sets you up for failure. It might not set you up for failure in 100% of the cases, but it will set you up for failure with some of the people you have in the room. So after we did some back and forth, the final idea we came up with is just let's convert your 3D designs that you already have, put them on a tablet, and give you a sort of fake look-around virtual reality and augmented reality function to dazzle the client a little bit when you go to the customer. And we actually made them realize that it's not important for them what the solution at the end is, but it's very important to make the solution easy for the designers. They have a team of 10 designers, and it's something you all know. The presentation is tomorrow, and I need to do the presentation, but I work on the design itself until the last minute. And then I do the presentation in the car. And it's the same thing here. This is high-pressure design work for customers on a deadline. So if we give the designer a tool and say, oh yeah, that's a very easy tool, you can convert your design to augmented and virtual reality in just 3 hours, you entering a battle from a losing ground. Instead, what we did is we gave them an online content management system where they just drag and drop their 3D design file in the format they are already used to, and everything else is done in the cloud. It will be transformed, it will be converted, it will be optimized, simplified, we make it look pretty. They don't need to use Unity, Unreal Engine, or anything, it's just one click for them. And after that, they can focus on what they really want to focus on, adding how this design was created, telling the story of what went to their mind as a designer to fulfill the customer briefing. And that's what they're basically doing. They're dragging and dropping. All the tech happens in the background, and they just need to press a single button to have it in an application. So they just upload their files to the cloud. It's all automatically converted to 3D, AR, and VR in the background. And then the designer can just edit and enrich it online with anything else he wants to add to tell his story with the customer. For the meetings, when they say that the marketing manager, they call it marketing manager, that's the guy who goes to the customer and talks about budget, talks about numbers, talks about everything else. And they always go together, the designer and the marketing manager. Then they need also a one-click solution. They won't have time to install a 7 gigabyte download in the Wi-Fi at home. They did, I think, 20 projects now where they presented with this app, and the download always happened in the car. I swear to you, the download always happened in the car on the way to the customer. That's how tight all of this is planned and all of this plays out. So that's also something that you need to plan for. If you give them a streaming solution, walking in any conference room in Germany, I can swear to you, there's no LTE, there's no 5G, there's no 4G, there's edge. Maybe there's a blocking in place to don't allow any cellular communications on the ground of the company floor. So it needs to be single download, cached on the device, and you need to be able to just call it up. Single click. They have an app, download once. They have a digital portfolio of all of their designs. They can jump into the customer design. It's easy to present. You just plug it into the beamer with a tablet and it works. It works offline and it works on any device. So if they bring a device which isn't charged, they can open it on a laptop instead. If the laptop dies, they can open it on their smartphone. So it works on any device. Gives them enormous security. These are marketing managers from a traditional industry. If it doesn't work for them one time in front of the customer, they are embarrassed. They will never use your tool again. And we lost customers because of that. Because in one situation, in a critical presentation, the app didn't work. They were embarrassed. Maybe they even lost the client because the tech didn't work. So this is what you have to think about the process. Just a few clicks, no training, because you can't train somebody how to use an app while he's driving to the customer meeting. So what does it look like? Okay, I hope the video played. Well, no, the video didn't play. Can somebody maybe click to make the video play? Perfect. So this is one of how they are now showcasing their designs. They upload it, it gets converted. They can add a little like hotspots of where I wanna view the booth from. All of the visual effects, the lighting, the light maps, all of that, they don't have to care about that. It's generated automatically in the cloud based on the source file they upload. So our cloud system is taking care of all of that. We're actually getting the people, they are adding them in 3ds Max or in Cinema 4D because they're doing renderings anyway. And this is the visual fidelity they're completely happy with. It doesn't need to be photorealistic. They don't have anything better. Before they used to render that, and then they have one picture in a PowerPoint presentation. And now they can take the whole booth to the customer interactively with just a single click. They have, when I go into the what we call first-person view, you can get the accelerometer, so you can walk around it. You can give it to the customer. He can actually walk around it a little bit. And you can project it onto any table or even in life size using augmented reality, AR Kit, AR Core on any device. So that's the solution. Very simple. Nothing fancy, nothing cutting edge, not the next generation AR or anything. That's just solid technology made into a good process, into a good application. We call this one Smart View. It's a very smart way of viewing products and designs. It has 3D augmented and virtual reality all in one. And it allows you to do a virtual presentation that takes the customer on an emotional journey. And at the end, you can share a single link with your customer and leave it with them. They can download it on their own device and they can walk through it again. That's the system. It's a new process. It's not just a tool. It actually consists of multiple tools. Upload, presentation, sending it to the customer. And all of this is supported by software, making all the stakeholders part of it. it's integrated. If it wouldn't be integrated, if I have a 700 megabyte download, if I have a 3-hour preparation process, it's not integrated into the business because the business doesn't allow for that. If you don't integrate something into the business, it will always be a nice to have. It will always be the next thing they cut from the budget when they need to do budget cuts. But if it provides a real value, if it's a one-click solution for everybody involved, then you can stay in the budget when the budget gets reduced. And that's what you want to be as a solution provider. That's where you want to be as a solution provider. So that's a very quick case study, coming from a completely different perspective than the technology. The technology underlying it is hugely complex. It's like an iceberg, and the customer only sees the 7% that go out of the water. But the other thing below the water, you need to enable this process, to enable this one-click experience for everybody involved. And that's very important. I don't know if you have time for questions.
Yeah, I think we have time for one question.